Mornings in the country, they never get old. Well, we're gonna be working with some sugar beets today. These are sugar beets back here, but not these ones. We sprayed these ones earlier this week. That is right, we are gonna be spraying some fungicide on our sugar beets today. And wow, these things are doing pretty good. Halfway up my thigh on those. They're on the edge though, they usually grow bigger on the edge, but I found a little surprise out here. So this is a sugar beet bolter. So sugar beets are a biennial crop, meaning it takes 2 years for them to grow because they would go to seed the second year of growth after they overwinter. And that's why, you know, they have a big sugary taproot that kind of helps keep them alive and re-fire up again in the spring, kind of like a carrot, you know, similar type thing going on. But this is a bolter. And so we grow our sugar beets for 1 year, right? So we plant them in April, May, harvest them from August to October. Sometimes you'll get kind of an odd plant, and this one is bolting, it's called, and so it's kind of starting to go to seed, and we actually have to remove these. Technically not yet, but since it's here and I'm right by it, figured might as well pluck it out. I did make a video on sugar beet boltering, so look that up if you're interested in more information on that. So a couple of quick sugar beets here. It is July 20th today, so I mean that's pretty good. I'm pretty pleased to see that. That's a good looking sugar beet right there. Nice formed taproot there, just a beautiful looking disease-free sugar beet. That's what we want. So those sugar beets look good. When it's a wetter year, we're more susceptible to diseases that our plants can get. So rhizoctonia is probably the biggest root disease. It's really dry right now, I'll add. It's very dry and we could use some rain. I think it rained like maybe a couple tenths the last couple days, so not much. It's still bone dry, a couple cracks in the ground, a couple inches deep, and we could use a rain. And so we're just finishing up our first fungicide spray on our sugar beets, and the reason we're spraying those now is to prevent a disease called Cercospora leaf spot. That's a tongue. Say that 5 times fast. And so my uncle, he's been running the sprayer, and so I've been his spray truck guy. So like always, hop on in, tag along, let's go for a ride in the spray truck today and learn a little bit about sugar beets. Welcome to the Red River Valley of North Dakota. A land flowing with milk and honey. You're watching Beet Farmin Mitch. Another day, another spray. So this is one of our spray trucks. We've got 2 that are pretty similar. They're kind of like small reefer trailers, and inside of them we've got water and kind of our chemical stored inside. My uncle is spraying over there, so I made it to the field. It takes a while to kind of pump the chemical from the tote into the cone, and so that's what I'm gonna do. So here's the back end. So I've actually never ran a sprayer other than like on a 4-wheeler or something, but I do have a private applicator's license, and so if you are going to spray your own crops, you have to have a private applicator's license, or if you spray other crops custom, then you have to have a commercial applicator's license. But I personally never have sprayed. I've kind of just been a spray truck, so I don't really have a whole lot of experience spraying, but I am pretty familiar with kind of how things work, but I've never operated it technically. So I gotta wear my safety glasses and a couple other things. Also got my long sleeve shirts and my rubber gloves. Beautiful day in the summer outside. So here's our 2 water tanks. There's one here and there's one on the other side. 1750, so really they aren't that big. We're kind of looking into maybe upgrading into a larger trailer. It's something we're thinking about. So like I said earlier, we are spraying fungicide, and so when you spray fungicide, you have to calculate exactly how much chemical that you put on to be able to spray it on the field appropriately. And as long as you follow the rules and the labels, and you know, there are people that drive around and like enforce farmers in terms of using chemicals properly and are following the laws and legal things that are involved, you know, I'm not too worried about it. Follow the label, follow the rule, don't do anything stupid, and everything will be just fine. My uncle will let me know exactly what he wants for when I'm filling chemical in here. Just so it's kind of ready, so he pulls up with the sprayer and we don't waste a bunch of time, and I'll go run out, hook up the hose, fire up, and then we're good to go. He'll kind of top it off and adjust it appropriately. but it takes quite a while to fill this up. Usually I'll give it a good shake. And then we'll rinse these out good because there's still some chemical in here. Spraying Manzate and also Proline. So these are two kinds of fungicides. And then over here we have something called a non-ionic surfactant, and then you mix some of that in there. And that just kind of helps the plants absorb the chemical and whatnot. It's kind of like an oil. So this is pretty standard for a first spray on sugar beets, Manzate, and Proline. And so you want to have a good variety. You know, you don't want to just keep spraying the same exact chemical because the plants might come resistant. And so you always want to have a good variety. You know, if you use different types of fungicide, different modes of action, it will help the plants stay more resistant to different chemicals. And so we actually live in a part of the world that seems like we have to spray a little bit less fungicide than other places. Because we're farther north, just the weather is a little different, and every area you farm has different challenges that come along with that. So typically on our regular sugar beets, we will spray 4 times. And on our new Cercospora resistant variety, there's a new variety that American Crystal Sugar Company just came out with called CR+, which is Cercospora resistant, which is a big deal because Cercospora has been a big problem. But you just gotta take care of your plants, and most people do, and it turns out all right. On to the next field. You can actually see a spray plane way over there across the horizon too. And so depending on your operation, you can actually hire a spray plane to spray the chemicals that you need. You know, it kind of just depends on the situation, you know. Some people do sometimes, some people do all the time, some people never do. You know, if it's wet or something, we will, or if we're really spread thin and we don't have time, we will. But ideally, it's really nice to spray on the ground because then you could use 15 gallons of water an acre, where a spray plane is not even close to that. Kind of interesting stuff. That was always my second dream job behind farming. A nice thing about having an enclosed trailer is you don't get rain on everything. So that is kind of nice to be able to have kind of a roof overhead. But the problem is it gets so dusty in here and everything gets all covered in dust. That's good. Of course, you gotta make sure your hazards are on. Beautiful spray day. So these are actually pinto beans. My uncle's spraying the field across the road. Those are sugar beets. And I'm just on the road in between, but these are my pinto beans here. And so I kind of want to come scout them out quick. And they're looking pretty good. A really good standout here. Overall, things look pretty nice. Not weedy out here at all. And the reason I'm feeling pretty good about this field is when my brothers planted it, there was zero moisture here. It was going into rock hard, dry dirt. And that, I wasn't too excited. And I'm like, oh, we'll see what happens. And then it actually ended up kind of getting a surprise good inch of rain. And then the beans came up really nice here. And now we wait, but not for very long. And so we have to spray our pinto beans too with fungicide. Fungicide is like probably the most important thing if you're growing a crop. It really makes a huge difference in the plant health and in the growth of the plant. So we sprayed some of our pinto bean fields, not all of them. We're just finishing our first time on all our sugar beets. And we'll have to switch over, and we'll have to spray all of our pinto beans now too with fungicide because we have to spray against a disease called white mold. So yeah, when you start getting diseases like Cercospora leaf spot, white mold, those are very devastating diseases that plants can have. And so it's very good to be able to have chemical technology to be able to improve these plants and help them to grow better. So I'll usually have to wait here a little bit. It doesn't take long. Usually read a newspaper article or two on my phone, and then it's time to fill already. But usually I get to see some interesting stuff. So I'm on a dirt road here waiting to fill, and we do not farm this side, but these are faba beans, and I've never actually seen faba beans growing, so kind of interesting to see. There's lots of stuff going on in this neighborhood. Right on this square mile section, we got sugar beets on this field, faba beans here, pinto beans on the other one I showed you, and then somebody farms sunflowers over there. And of course there's some wheat down yonder and some soybeans and some corn. And you go a couple miles south and you got some spuds growing. You got the whole oboe shenanigans. These things are good. Nature Valley blueberry biscuits. This truck doesn't have fully working AC though, so it gets a little warm. So I got our hose hooked up and the valves opened up. My uncle's mixing the chemical inside, and I'm just kind of keeping an eye on things, and especially making sure that the tank doesn't overfill. We always want to keep an eye on that, because it fills up faster than the guy thinks. The Case Patriot 3340, 1100 gallon tank, 132 foot aluminum booms with auto boom. It's a really nice sprayer and a much needed upgrade for us. And it goes really fast on the road too, like 30 miles an hour, which is pretty fast. You know it's a good sugar beet field when you can hardly tell where the rows are. Another hour, another field. The AC doesn't work too great in here, so she's getting a little toasty. And so this is another important thing. As a spray truck guy, when you're hauling water, you've got to be really careful when you're driving down the road. You don't want to be going too fast, because when the water starts sloshing back and forth with these, it's easy to tip them. And I've seen quite a few and heard of quite a few spray truck accidents where people, you know, either pulled over too far on the road or were going too fast or whatever, turned not sharp or wide enough, whatever it may have been. So I usually don't go past 35 on gravel roads, just because you don't want to go flip-flopping with this in the ditch. And that's another thing too, when I'm handling chemicals and stuff, I always make sure and be very cognizant of my hands. If I get any drops on me or anything, then I gotta be sure to rinse it off, especially before I eat. Got some watermelon here. But it's been busy running as a spray truck guy. My brother just brought a load of water from our other water truck and we pumped it into here. And we're just trying to keep the big sprayer going. Sometimes as a spray truck guy, you're sitting quite a while. It just depends on what you're spraying and how much water you're using per acre, how many gallons per acre. Because other times, like now, it's pretty busy. I get about a few minutes to eat a water slice and then we're ready to fill again. I still got some more radishes too. These are French breakfast. Good radish crop this year. And of course, if I start getting tired, gotta have a bubbler. So when you're eating watermelon, I don't know about you, but this is the best part right here. Just kidding. Actually didn't taste too bad. It's kind of like a vegetable. Maybe I should put a little salt on the watermelon rind and start eating those too. That's a thing, isn't it? I'm pretty sure some people put salt on their water. Do you put salt on your watermelon? I've heard of this being a thing before. I gotta try it. I don't think it's for me. Time to mix again. So actually this tote here and this are the same thing. We're getting down towards the end, so we're gonna finish out with these jugs, which aren't as fun to deal with, but that's what you gotta do. So it's kind of funny, but a lot of agricultural chemicals, there's something called a trade name, which is kind of like the brand of the chemical, not specifically the chemical. And a lot of them have funny names. So this one's called Manzate, there's other ones, Raptor, Stinger, Roundup, Warhawk, Liberate, Husky. It's kind of fun just kind of seeing some of the names out there. But this sheet on here kind of shows you everything you need to know. Oh look, they stole the Facebook logo. Pretty much if there's any restrictions on using the chemical and basically what's the active ingredients in the chemical and safety information and a whole bunch of stuff inside that whole booklet there. So it's like a chemical operator's manual. So I was curious here, so just to kind of, for an idea, 1 inch of rain is equivalent to 27,154 gallons of water per acre. And we're spraying on 15 or 20, so it's not that much water. So the reason I say 20 gallons an acre is because we are now spraying fungicide on pinto beans for white mold. We switched. We finished all of our beets today, and now we're switching to our pinto beans. Gonna kind of do the early fields and then come back to the later pinto bean fields in a couple days. So since we're spraying for white mold on pinto beans, a couple different chemicals here, so we had to swap out. I'll show you what we got. So we're spraying 2 types of fungicide. This one's called Incognito, that's the trade name. We've got Midnight, and this is actually kind of interesting. This is essentially just a fertilizer. This is a whole bunch of different types of fertilizer inside of this liquid blend, and then some tebuconazole. So those are a couple pretty common fungicides. So that's what we're spraying on our pinto beans now. Well, we made it to the water station, so I'm gonna fill up and then bring it back to the farm, and we got everything sprayed we wanted to, so I get to call it a day after that. So this is how you fill it up. It's some pretty simple stuff. It's just a bunch of banjo valves. That's what those are called. And when you're filling up with water, the first thing you gotta do is open those valves. Because if you don't, you could blow up a hose or something. Wouldn't be good. Oh, the honey's calling. Hello.
Hello.
How goes it?
Well, you tell me, mister.
I'd say pretty good. I'm filling up the spray truck right now. Gonna head back to the farm and then call it a weekend, actually.
Oh, the weekend?
Yeah.
You need a doctor once a year. You need the fire department once a lifetime if you're unlucky. But you need a farmer 3 times a day.
I will say being a farm taxi is a pretty important job during harvest. Well, I'm just about done filling with water here, so I gotta keep an eye on this and get back home and stuff. All right, love you too. Bye. And that's a wrap. Gotta remember to roll your windows up. One time it was left cracked a little bit and a bird got in here and it was in here for like days and it was a disaster. Gather my stuff and head for the hills. Let me tell you, we got hills in the Red River Valley. Just come visit yourself. Well, I'm on the ride home, checking out my corn crop. It is nearing time to fungicide. I'm gonna have an airplane fungicide this in a couple of days. It just started tasseling, and when those things up on top, the tassels come out, that's when you want to spray some fungicide. Gonna spray some headline amp on this. And I can't see much from in here, but when I drive by on the road, maybe I'll see some more. Well, this is Beet Farmin Mitch coming at you live from inside of a cornfield. And man, it's a forest in here. There's a lot going on in a cornfield, that's for sure. Anyway, this is Beet Farmin Mitch, and don't forget to keep it sweet. And remember, folks, real sugar is always better than high fructose corn syrup.